Hey toy fans, we've got droids, and more droids. And in today's video, we're going to review this awesome selection of custom Kenner style vintage droid action figures, protocol droids, astromech droids from Stan Solo. And I'm also going to give you some of my thoughts on the current state of fan-made customs and reproductions in the toy collecting community of today. So stay tuned.
Come with me, toy fans.
Hey Star Wars fans, my name is Tony and welcome to Analog Toys, where we're obsessed with bringing you the history of vintage toys and action figures. Now, I've reviewed a number of Smithlord Creation products in the past, and I need to clarify something because as much as Chris Smith tries to explain this, the message doesn't seem to be getting out there. Chris Smith was the original founder of Smithlord Creations. However, that business has been sold to the Fans Strike Back. So if you're searching for Smithlord Creation products, you need to go to the Fans Strike Back website, where I have also pre-ordered the Bantha, and I'm looking forward to reviewing that toy when we eventually get it. After Chris sold the Smithlord Creations to the Fans Strike Back, he then started up another company called Stan Solo, and these products are Stan Solo products. Now, when Chris first started making these, I was very interested in getting the two droids versions of R2-D2 and C-3PO as they appeared in the animated cartoon, because I think they are a very interesting addition to the vintage Kenner line, but they're exceedingly rare and very expensive, something I can't afford to pay for, and these were a much more cost-effective way of adding these to my collection. Now, I'm not too sure which of these figures Chris started with, whether it was recreating the animated series droids versions of R2 and C-3PO or whatever he did. But now that he's kind of got the mold for those two figures, he's gone on and made an enormous variety of different astromech droids and protocol droids. Now, with all the different variations that Chris has made here, he's covered entries from all three of the classic trilogy Star Wars movies. So from the Star Wars line, we have R2-Q2 and U-3PO. U-3PO is a very striking figure. I thought it was vac metallized, but after speaking to Chris, I now discovered that it's actually electroplated. And the R2-Q2 has been supplied here with a third leg, which is easily removable, so you can get it to stand the same way that the vintage Kenner R2-D2 stood, or you can put the third leg in as though he's wheeling around the corridors. Now, there's one more figure that Chris has produced on a Star Wars card back, an original Star Wars card back, and that is this Yavin Ceremony C-3PO, but I'm going to talk about him a little bit later on. Now, from the Empire Strikes Back, we've got two different astromech droids and two different protocol droids. We've got the R3A2 and the R3Y2. And then with the protocol droids, we've got K3PO and R3PO. K3PO, I really like this figure. It stands out, it looks perfect with, you know, your Hoth-themed toys, and the card back is just fantastic. It's a great photograph and one that I'm very pleased to be able to review today. R3PO, on the other hand, doesn't really do it for me. Now, this is not a slight against the toy that Chris has produced. It's just, I find the design a little bit boring. There's not a lot of paint application on this particular figure beyond the eyes. It's just molded in a different colored plastic. This figure is not exactly the pick of the bunch for me. An interesting thing to note with these protocol droids, they've all been based off of the second edition C-3PO from the Kenner line, the one with removable arms and legs. Every one of them, they've got really tight joints, but they're also easy to remove the arms and legs, which I think is fantastic. And just like we did with the Empire series of toys, you can take one of these apart, remove the arms and legs, and stick him in Chewbacca's backpack, and he can carry around a broken droid. And you have a variety here of different droids that you can take apart. And available on a Return of the Jedi card back is probably my favourite astromech droid. I just love the design of this one, and that's the R2-Q5 figure. This is a gorgeous looking figure, and Chris has made this available via Stan Solo as a pop-up saber version with a glow-in-the-dark lightsaber. A beautiful figure, and I'm very pleased to add this one to my collection. Now, some of the astromech droids that Chris has produced also have a clear dome rather than a painted dome, and these are quite interesting. And yeah, these clear domes, they're interesting. I do prefer, I think, the painted variations. But, you know, this is how they actually looked in the movies with the clear Perspex domes. And they're interesting. They provide a real nice bit of variety into your Droid's action figure display. Stan Solo has also produced a number of these droids based on the Glasliti versions from Brazil, and they're available on some Glasliti styled card backs, which are very interesting and quite unique. Now we have this particular astromech droid. I'm not sure of the name, but this has been designed with Boba Fett styled colours, and I think it looks great displayed with the Slave One and Boba Fett. I'm sure Boba Fett had some kind of a droid in his Slave One to help him with repairs on the ship and that kind of thing. And yeah, it just looks cool, and I like the colour design of this one, the Bounty Hunter's droid, so to speak. Now, Chris has also come up with a really interesting accessory for the astromech droids, which I'm quite excited about. And that's this drink serving tray from the scene where R2-D2 is enslaved by Jabba the Hutt on the sail barge. Really cool accessory, very well designed. I like the way it just clips onto the top of the legs, and it's very cool. And you can see it here displayed on a reproduction pop-up saber R2-D2. And this is where some people in the community start to have a little bit of an issue with the kind of products made by Stan Solo. There are some people out there who are very anti-repro. Even though Chris clearly marks on the card backs that these are reproductions, he doesn't put coups on the figure legs, he still gets a lot of hate for this, and I'm getting pretty fed up with the attitudes of some of these elitist Star Wars collectors. I'm just going to quickly read a message here that someone recently sent to Chris Smith at Stan Solo. I'm not going to mention the name of the person who sent the message, but I would love to buy some of your wonderful Star Wars customs. So no one has an issue with well, certainly not this guy, has an issue with the customs. But you know I can't purchase any of this stuff because I'm a vintage collector. Some of the dirty stuff you make is destroying the hobby. None of this stuff is dirty. This is actually quite clean and nice and crisp. And I think it's bringing a new element of fun, and it is making the hobby accessible to more people. That's what it's doing. Okay, when we specifically talk about the pop-up saber R2-D2, that loose figure, I don't even know what they go for now, $300, $400, $500 loose. Carded, you're talking about thousands, and you can get them very cheaply. Reproduction from Stan Solo. As I said, they're clearly marked as reproductions. You can't pass them off as originals. Yeah, so this stuff he's making is destroying the hobby and taking all of the fun out of it. Why do you not just stick to the good stuff? Is there not enough money in it? I've seen some interaction between you and the Echo guys, and I'm a bit shocked. Surely you know how upsetting and frustrating this is for vintage collectors. People are going to get emotional about it. My only hope is that Hasbro come after you because you're taking market share off the retro stuff they're doing. So it's okay for Hasbro to reproduce stuff. They're okay with that. So some of their arguments around, you know, it's making it harder and harder to identify, you know, genuine vintage stuff. And yet when Hasbro makes it, that argument just goes out the window. Anyway, I hope you stop the repro stuff and carry on with the wonderful customs. Well, I hope that Chris carries on with the repro stuff, and I hope he carries on with the customs, because these figures are absolutely beautiful. They're fantastic. They're very well made. Tight joints. They display excellent, and they just have that retro Kenner feel to them. Going back to this guy's comments about ruining the hobby, or taking all of the fun out of the hobby, or whatever the sad sack said. Last year, Hasbro introduced the Retro Collection, where they started reproducing vintage figures under license. One of the things that Hasbro is doing, though, is making figures that aren't that hard to get today. You know, reproducing a first series Han Solo, you know, they're not that difficult to get. Hasbro aren't out there making the very rare figures like the blue snaggletooths, the yak faces, and the pop-up saber R2-D2s, like Stan Solo is doing. And I think that's what's getting these collectors really upset, is it's the rare figures that at one point, or still are, extremely valuable. I think they're just a little bit annoyed that people with a lower financial status are now have access to these awesome figures, and it bothers them. Now, so with the Hasbro Retro Collection, right, they released a Star Wars wave last year, an Empire Strikes Back wave this year. They offered 6 figures in each wave that we've already had before. As I said, they're not choosing particularly rare figures. But then they've given us 1 unreleased figure in each version. So we had Grand Moff Tarkin, and then I think we've got Luke in his Snowspeeder outfit in the second wave. Now, going back to this guy's comment about, is there not enough money in it for him? Well, that's obviously what Hasbro think, because the one figure that we never got back in the day, the one figure that there's a lot of collectors out there who don't want the other 6 figures in the wave because they've already got the vintage ones. They want the unreleased figure, but no, Hasbro packs that in with a board game, like a board game that nobody wants. So you have to pay double the price for the one figure in the line that you really want. And as for taking all the fun out of the hobby and people wanting to get Hasbro stuff, these products here are tremendous. As I've already said it before, they're very, very well made. And Stan Solo are offering the type of figures that we always wanted. So unreleased figures like Han in Stormtrooper disguise, Yak Face for those of us who can't afford the original Yak Face. They're offering up some really, really exciting products. And what is Hasbro offering us? The Bespin Freeze Chamber. And this toy is an absolute turkey. It's a rickety, bland, bridge to nowhere. I mean, I suppose you can get your figures to walk the plank if you want them to. But to actually complete the playset, you got to purchase 2 of them. Like, Hasbro is so disconnected from what the fans really, really want. So to all of the anti-repro haters out there, get over yourselves. People like Chris Smith and the fans strike back. These guys are making products that the fans want. Hasbro is not. Hasbro has no idea what collectors want. And if they're not going to give us the type of things we need, I'm really pleased that there are fans out there who are providing the type of figures and toys that we do really want to add to our collection. I'm super excited about the Bantha. I am not excited about the Bespin Freeze Chamber piece of garbage. This is the future, guys. This is the future of toy collecting. The fans are making the best stuff. As Michael at Retroblasting always says, the fans are doing the best work. Hasbro, you're not. And I'm going to continue to support fan customs, fan creations, and fan reproductions. So long as they're marked as reproduction and they're not being sold to try and rip anybody off, it ain't taking no fun out of the hobby for me. It's actually bringing fun to the hobby. It's making it more accessible to a broader range of people. Now that I've had my rant about the anti-repro guys who just will not get out of their own way, I'm going to return to talk about the C-3PO from the Yavin ceremony that I mentioned at the start and I said I would talk about later. Of all the different Stan Solo products that I have here, this one is absolutely stunning, gorgeous, incredible. I can't believe how amazing this figure looks. I think until you actually have it in hand, potentially I can't even show you on a 4K digital camera how good this really looks. But to give you some example, here is an original Kenner C-3PO figure. And the results are just night and day. This figure is absolutely gorgeous. This is now going to be my preferred C-3PO that I'm going to display in my cases as opposed to the vintage one. It's got the silver lower right leg painted silver. It's not all in gold. And it is just stunning. Not just the figure, the card back as well. The card back is incredible. It's a beautiful photograph. It's got that real 1977 Star Wars vibe to it. Overall, these are tremendous. The only figure I don't particularly like is, I think it's R3PO, the red guy. That's nothing to do, as I said, with the way that the figure has been made. The design doesn't appeal to me. All of these products are available from the stand solo on their Etsy page. All of their contact details are in the video description below. You get top quality service from Chris, fantastic products, and the type of figures that you're never, ever, ever, ever gonna get from Hasbro. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to hear me go on another rant about repro toys, you can click right here. Or if you want to see some of the other amazing custom figures that have been produced by Chris Smith, you can click right here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.